Was it translated? I think that in regards to, I suppose, if I understand correctly, in regards to me doing the ultra marathons, I think that has developed a tremendous amount of resilience. Like, I don't give up. I'm very determined, and I think that stuff is really hard. And I sometimes think, if I'm in a difficult situation at work, if I can climb a mountain, I forgot my gloves on one trip. I always think, if I can climb a mountain without any gloves on, I can do this meeting. So I think it's made me very, very resilient, very determined. Yeah.
So what encouraged you to get into business from healthcare?
So I used to work, it's kind of a local university to us. I used to work at Canterbury Christchurch University, and I'd worked there for around about 5 years. And it got to the point where I was, when you're like, that this is not working anymore. So, but at the time I worked in the university, and it was fantastic up until the very last point. I was working with a group of GPs who had some funding from Health Education England to develop this thing called a CEPN. It was a community education provider network. And what they were trying to do is replicate the education and mentorship that you would find in a hospital across a group of general practices. And I was supporting them in my role as a business development manager. And then when it was time for me I handed in my notice, and I told those GPs I'm leaving, they said, "Oh, well, will you write our business plan for us to Health Education England?" And I said, "Yeah, will you pay me?" And they said, "Have you got a business? Because we can't just pay a person." And I went, yeah, I've got a business. And literally went home that night and Googled, like, what is a business? What is Company's House? I spoke to my sister.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what do I call myself? And my sister said, "Just call yourself your name, and then it doesn't matter what you do then." So I just was a bit like, okay. I think she said, if Calvin Klein can call his business Calvin Klein, you can call yourself Tara Humphrey.
100%.
So I just called it Tara Humphrey Consulting, which has now been shortened to THC. So literally it went from, I think, Medway CEPN, then Canterbury, then West Kent. And then I Googled CEPN manager. I was like, I'm a CEPN manager, apparently. What do they do? And a lady called Melanie picked up my email and said, "Come down to Richmond Park. I'll tell you everything that I do." And she was, I would not have this business without her. And then when she went on maternity leave, she said, "Tara, will you caretake my post for me? Don't steal it." And so I caretook it. And then I went from Richmond to Bromley to Lewisham, just word of mouth. And then there's a guy called Ben Gowland. He's got this podcast called the General Practice Podcast. And I'd always wanted to create a podcast, but I didn't have the guts. And then I reached out to him and said, "I love your podcast." And he said, "Oh, do you want to have a chat?" So I was like, "Yeah." And then he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I do project management in primary care." And he said, "Will you take on a frailty contract?" And I was like, "What's frailty?" I don't know. So he explained it to me. I said, "Well, how long is this going to take?" And he said, 19 days. And I said, "I've never done this before, but I think it's going to take more than 19 days across 42 practices." And I was there for 18 months.
Wow.
And literally it's just people, relationships, word of mouth. And yeah, so I've been doing that for nearly 7 years now.